broadcaster meetings, I have had people approach me that have watched it on the meeting, and they appreciate what we do, they recognize what we do, and it works very well. So thank you for continue to do that time we can open up the facility. And as I would like to welcome everyone to the this December, it doesn't seem like it's this morning, December regular meeting of the Board of Education, San Francisco Public Schools. We appreciate everybody's in attendance, and I would ask that we have a roll call, and I will call the meeting to order. To the Black of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item our agenda is what we heard. We asked the public to sign in prior to the meeting, and we learned 5 minutes, and seeing that no side in to address the board. Our favorite subject. And it is recognition of some superstars. We got the first one. I can make this presentation. I'm gonna have Kim come join us. Kim and I want you to join us too, because Mr. E and Kim work together, and Kim is an institution at Franklin Schools. She was the board secretary. I've been on the board for 25 years. Kim Plenty was board secretary for probably 3 of those years. And she said a chair right there. She was she was the superintendent's administrative assistant. And whatever needed to happen, Kim took it. And if it was an out-of-state travel or ended up traveling dinner and came out about it, it was just whatever needed to take place, a Kiminator. I say that as a board member because we're kind of needy. We become, we're here one for the most part. And we come up, we're kind of made sure that all of our needs met, even if we know what we need. Now, she says it's a andite in your blood. You can't get away from it. She chose to come back and help. Mostly 2 days a week, 3 days a week, probably like 7 days a week.
All relative.
She shows up again to assist Ms. Durkee, to assist Ms. Arnold, to assist the board, and she's an institution that brings and it is wonderful. This is the Sandlight Pace Setter Award, and I'll just read this. For outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing San Francisco schools and the community at large. Think beyond, I promise. She thinks beyond, and she thinks about everybody and make sure that everything's taken care of. We appreciate you a whole lot.
So the only thing I would say is we did about those in the background that really do make the district run. And I know she works for Miss Arnold. But you know, in our office we kind of share admin team, and it really is about a team, honestly, to work done. But she just in the background really makes magic happen. And I think we all know that sometimes we don't remember to recognize folks, and so we appreciate
I swear, like, I guess it's elementary in me, but into the, I'd say you think there's no way we can get, like, they're booked, they've been booked. You're never gonna get a hotel room. He's like, well, I'm gonna get right on that. And she's like, well, you know, I talked to so-and-so who talked to so-and-so, and I called them every 5 minutes. And they have a room now. They put some back in the reserve. So now we have a room for 12 people.
it's
She is, and I'm just saying, because when we know it can't be done, we're just like, give it to Beth. I mean, let's give it to Beth. Let's give it to Kim and Beth's like, she's like, do that. I do. They're both like that. But Kim is phenomenal and she's there 3 days a week, but she'll stay 7 if she has to. But everybody's like, well, how come you have somebody 5 days a week? And I said, because I have Kim.
Well, the other part of it, you have a bunch of knowledge and history, and we forget how important and critical it is to have people that have that letter.
Everybody goes to her, so.
Much like that in small city, a little bit.
Ms. Arnold made a comment in here that it's so true. She says, Kim works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We don't sit her thing on Thursday, Friday, say to me on Monday, because if we do, we'll do it right then. She'll even come out on the weekend and take care of it because she thinks it's so important. So that just says what her dedication to this brings. We just couldn't make it so.
So, right, and and one more, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
It's nice that you have knowledge in history. They just call it.
Okay.
Up next, I get to recognize some wonderful ladies in softball. If I could have Ring Rector, Jolie McNown, and Avery Tanner. I hope I didn't butcher any of these names. Okay, these are the Standby Spirit Awards. This is Jolie. Ring Rector. And that's Avery Tanner. Okay, Standby Spirit Awards. The certificate is to these lovely ladies for outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing San Francisco Public Schools and the community at large. Thank you. And they get the wonderful award for Large East 6A All-State Team in softball.
Here.
So, Coach Yvonne, who recognize you all, she has some more words, please.
I know in our banquet I talk about, it just seems like a day he's going. So I remember being here in the room, they were 8th graders, they're all excited to try out the high school team coming up in a month or two. And they're already seniors. And it's just time flies by. They've been an amazing group. And this is the part of coach that I enjoy because I get to see all their hard work pay off. And just to kind of give you an idea how difficult it is to make all state. There's 32 schools in 6A, and there's 32 5A. They only pick 18, okay, out of those 64 schools. And so our 3 kids are a great example of what hard work does and to make that team 18. So, and they'll play in June against the West Side.
Ms. Brown, you pretty amazing teams in all the course of time. Please share steps or follow. Maybe you all can share where you're going. I know at least some of you have committed to play. Am I right?
Did you bring in one to Woodland?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jolie had the opportunity to go, but she can make that difficult decision. Can I continue to play? Can I continue to put my body through that? And she decided that her senior year was that for her, but she had the chance to go. So all 3 are great. I mean, I'm 4 point. I'm gonna go out on a limb here because we just did our GPA not too long ago. So I'm thinking like 4.0 students up there too. So they simplify what it takes to get there in the classroom.
I'm proud of your achievement with sports and softball. No doubt your achievement with a 4.0 on card point average in rigorous curriculum is pretty amazing. So yeah, you guys.
Ladies. All right, 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Good job.
If I may just add something to that, because I see the participants in the room and wonderful ladies, wonderful job that you did, but I see the great support from the friends, from the parents, from the grandparents, from the siblings and stuff, and that says a lot about you all and the relationship that you have with the girls, so thank you all for what you do. You represent Sand Springs very well. Very nice. Shelley, thank you for leading the team. We will now move to the interesting part of but now anytime if somebody wants to leave, you're more than welcome to leave, or you're more than welcome to stay and watch us take care of the school's business. So. Next item on our agenda is the review and acceptance of the 2020 and 2021 audit by Bledsoe, Hewitt, and Gorson.
Right, so we have Jim, yeah, there's Chris, so I'm gonna come in and talk you through. I'll give you all have a copy of it. And we have some extra copies, I believe, with Mr. Moore. So Chris, if you don't mind.
Where's the appropriate? Yep.
You're gonna be right here addressing the board.
Right. Thank you guys for,
Fine.
oh no, I'm fine. Thank you guys for having me. As you know, there's a requirement as part of the audit process, for schools that a representative comes and presents the audit to the board. My name's Chris Gullickson, obviously. Got a couple auditors that were with me, Jason and Jesse over there. They're just kind of witnessing the whole process. They were here at Sand Springs doing audit as well. Pages of the same legal terms that are in the audit. I'm just going to kind of go over, I think I can summarize it on about 4 pages here, 4 or 5 pages. And certainly if you have questions, just stop me. If you want to follow along, page 12 is where I like to start. Page 12 is kind of a summary page of our 3 letters. We have 3 different letters we put in the audit, our independent auditor's report, which is your standard audit depending on the financial statements. We have a letter on internal control compliance, which is because you're considered a subdivision of government, the school district kind of kicks you into another audit level where while auditing the financial statements, if we identify any areas of non-compliance with state statutes or weaknesses in internal controls, we'll outline those findings in that letter. And then there's a 3rd letter, report on internal control compliance related to major federal programs. And that's because you send over $750,000 federal money, kicks you into an audit tier where we just have to do certain clients and testing on the larger federal dollars. But again, page 12 summarizes those 3 letters. We issued adverse opinion on your financials with respect to GAAP accounting. This basically just means you don't follow GAAP accounting. You follow regulatory basis accounting. That's copying everything according to OCAS and what's prescribed by the State Department of Education. You're in compliance with how they like to have school finance rules. With respect to that regulatory basis, we issued a qualified opinion, which just means that the financial statements were presented except there was not a fixed asset number on the balance sheet. Again, no different than years past for you guys, no different than 99% of the schools in the state of Oklahoma. Basically, for an accounting standpoint, you'd want to see a depreciated value on large buildings and vehicles and fixed assets. And it's just very costly and takes an arm of the police to satisfy the auditors to put a number on that balance sheet. Schools have always just expensed items as you expense them, each year when you pay for them. So you do it like everybody else. I wouldn't worry about it till the state provides schools with funding, kind of step that up. I just keep doing what you're doing. Items 2 and 3, there were no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies in internal controls. There were no instances of non-compliance which were material to the financials. So that's that second letter in our audit. No findings related to that. And then the rest of it here, 4 through 9, is related to that third letter, the major federal programs. There were no material instances of non-compliance, no findings with the major programs. An unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion. COVID money, ESSER money, CARES money, ESSER money, and then child nutrition, basically the big programs. Child nutrition received a lot more money than it has in the past. The way they've accepted some schools to everybody eat free, different things like that, kind of kicked the rate up a little bit. So a clean audit from that standpoint. No findings in the audit. Before I touch on the financial statements, the very last 2 pages of the audit are our management letter. If you want to look at that, there's really just one finding in our management letter. It's the very last 2 pages.
Just a letter.
It should be attached to it. Yeah, just a letter. There you go. Yep. The only thing we mentioned in here was related to kickback affidavits with your purchase orders. I think the current statute's 25,000. If the individual invoice is over 25,000, you're supposed to get a kickback affidavit from the vendor. Whatever that means or whatever it's worth, that's what the statutes require. Don't let that take away from an outstanding audit. We like to point out any nitpicky thing we can, and just to make sure, you guys are in compliance. If there's something we see, we want to relay to you guys, but again, it certainly didn't warrant going in the audit itself. So and I think I think the state's even said too on those that if it's a vendor you use real frequently, you're going to be getting $25,000 invoices a month or anything like that, you can get one from that vendor and have it on file just for the year. So anyway. Let's see, page 15, flipping back to the front where we were. I know I skipped around there, but page 15 of the audit is your general fund income statement. Third column, actual revenues, expenditures on 15 is really what we're most concerned with from a financial standpoint. Your general fund being your main operating fund. Money out there in limbo, if you will. I'll pull one of those out in just a moment, but I mean, for $34 million budget and 600,000, that's pretty darn close to breaking even. And the goal of any government, I feel like, should be to break even. You want to kind of have a fund balance, a safety net in there to pay for everything at the beginning of the year until funding comes in. But at the same time, this isn't a big for-profit business. Break even is the goal, especially when there's funding cut and budget shortfalls and everything. All the struggles for changing in Oklahoma that you have to deal with. So, that being said, fund balance went from 6.8 million to 6.1 million at the end of the year. At 6.1 million is about 17% of that total revenue. A good goal, 17% outstanding. So I think a really good fund balance for a district your size. I see a lot of fluctuations over last. Schools can be penalized for carrying over too much in the child nutrition fund. I don't know. They may be waiving that this year. I don't know that they waived it back. The back on are to be levied. But here, with a lot of what I met. I'm not opening it the other way, so it's worth think a lot myself, that might be better, but yeah, great got some, I think the staff got here, I think. We need in now, we're body on the accounting. It's single sign on and it just helps to prepare our audit a lot better and I feel like a top of it. And make sure that got as much pay, but thank you for putting forward here. And we work with
You had my question. Now. But you have to look at, you know what, that was there.
better. You want to stick to with COVID and being happy to go from home and it was virtual, just one of the good things is making that available. And
Also, I really enjoyed them, but you find out what you listen. It's a headache, and it's not mine. There's moles. And the information, that's how we share. Department, so.
See, then I see we need. On your motion. You have. Which I'm missing, that. Okay. For the cash.
There's, we used to. I was told system for them, but a lot of the system. They will. That's pretty impressive.
One green. Come on.
Takes a second. It's like water down the pipe.
Right? I've got a third one over there. Can you grab it? Because it's not coming through. I think we can do it with one.
They needed me to walk. Okay. Okay, we should be good. It's picking up even though they're red. Okay, we can try it. I think when I touch it, perfect. Sorry about that.
We're good at that.
That means if it stops working, it's fault, right?
Item number 7, student empowerment and staff empowerment. This third week.
So I started by talking about Dectronics, which I was kind of weird because it's a scoreboard. But now that the contract's finalized based on board decision last month, you're looking back on the curriculum. So we've already begun those talks about the how-to, starting to develop ideas about broadcasting and a pathway. And so all of those things that Mark talked about at the last meeting, from Dectronics that get me pumped up and excited, that's what we're starting to talk about now. So this is part of, it's going to be part of our array of student options that we offer for a pathway outside of post-secondary. So I'm pretty excited about that. We have begun our second checkpoint meetings with our individual leaders, really focusing on student achievement. We are interested in understanding to what degree our kids turned out behind. I will say this, what we're finding this year, when we looked at the first benchmarks, this year's benchmarks in the fall were better than last year's benchmarks, which makes sense because you'll remember last year they were out from March literally until August, whereas last year we had pretty much a full year. Go to that room and check out the babies and hold some, kids that are less than 1 year old, and it just brings your heart to stop. So, school calendar, you guys, in the draft format. So it's there for a while. We started incredibly early, and I want to take the time publicly to kind of explain. I know I sent an email about draft 2, which our staff has seen at this point. Draft 2 was the implementation of a full week of Thanksgiving break, and just kind of put that out for the staff. I got some really good feedback about the full week of Thanksgiving. I have to tell you, I had a realization that a lot of districts do that, which I did not know. We are starting a couple of days early if we go into draft 2. I also need to explain publicly that with summer school ramped up like it was this year, and that will continue next year, there were 3 weeks that we could choose that would be off time for teachers in the summer, with a choice of 2 weeks before summer school started or at the end of the year, which is out a week before Memorial Day, or 2 weeks before school started. Or you could do 1 week before the summer starts and 2 weeks before school started. When we were processing through that, it's incredibly hard to employ teachers for summer. Last year, and I know Sean could attest to Kristen, we were onboarding not just San Antonio's public school teachers, but we onboarded Manford, Prue. They were talking about some of the other area districts that actually had teachers that were employed here in the summer. So employing that many people for the summer months in 1 week time is pretty tricky. So lots of consideration. I will say this, we're pausing because there's a little bit of rumbling statewide about the possibility of re-implementation of that 30-day window to start school prior to October 1, so that our Title I funding could trick trying to get people to fill out free reduced lunch forms, because right now everybody's eating free, as you know. So there's not an urgency to get those forms filled out now. We're not the only district in the state that's struggling with that. That's a statewide problem, which is why the rumbling started statewide. I don't know where it's going to end up, but again, it does impact the calendar if, in fact, they let us count the rollover students as of October 1 for free lunches. So there's a conundrum right now, but I want to be really clear about what we're talking about. So if you had questions, or input about the calendar, you could let us know. So definitely
Calendar day for October 1st or 30th.
30. So before 2019, the rule was you needed to start within 30 days of October 1. Because what happens with our child nutrition department is in the past, those kids would roll over into counting on that October 1 count for the purpose of funding. We're having a little bit of debate in cabinet about what really drives Title I, and I know Ms. Counselor Watts did some work on that, gosh, several years ago, and we're still studying that. But they changed that. The USDA made a determination that current year, current forms, and so they came out with those forms in July. After, of course, enrollment has started, pre-enrollment has been going on since March. And so it's a real trick to get parents to fill out the new form based on new income windows or bands that allow people to qualify for free and reduced. And now since we're getting lunches for free, it doesn't seem as urgent to folks. So we did a dialogue. Sherry Pearson and I were on dialogue, and then we talked about transfers a little bit. Carrie and I last week, the week before, and so we're really going to start promoting and hitting hard on the importance of free and reduced forms for the purpose of district funding.
Will be looked back to, like you referred to, we might not start school until after September 1st.
No, it'd be before September 1st. It would be in August, but it would be later in August. So
School days.
correct. It's school days, not calendar. Yes, that's correct. So again, more to talk about. Typically, we don't start the calendar talk until January, honestly. I got a question from a teacher that asked, or who asked, when is fall break? And so that started us down this path of, hey, Arnold, when's the calendar going to be?
4 months before I updated that, so I just created 3 of them and said, here.
If I understand this correctly, if we do have to follow that rule of whatever legal was there, then that would probably change the look at the full
Yes,
week gap thing.
exactly.
Okay, unless we opted to go past.
Correct. That would take, I'm going to do the math poorly probably, but that would take the start date at 22, around the 22nd-ish of August, which is a full week later. So the other consideration, and I will say this is kind of a strong feeling of teachers completely every single year, is that starting kids at a full week, in other words, Monday through Friday, is pretty tough to orient. At first, they really like to start with that small week to get kids used to coming to school again after a long summer. So lots of thought goes into the calendar. You would think it would be easy to peg 180 days and it would be simple, but it is truly never simple. So
I know there's a lot of considerations to think through on that Thanksgiving week,
sure.
and certainly teachers and they would love that. I would personally, my family would be great, but I know probably 5 years ago when my kids were younger,
Sure.
and we were in a different financial position, that would not have been great for us as a family. So I just want to make sure we take into consideration families and that we maybe get some feedback from others in the community.
You betcha.
So Sherry can also share too that you don't look at the little numbers that are on there, but that's something that teachers will bring up a lot is, I think one of them was like 82 and 90 something. So when you think about semesters and how many days are in a semester, and for elementary, you know, clocking it every 6 weeks, that you always have less. Think about how many days I have before we leave for winter break and how many days I have in that second semester.
And it boils down to issuing grades with a short 6-week period. So if you have, you're 2 weeks shy of 6 weeks, then your last 6-week period would be a judgment of grades based on, say, 3 or 4 weeks of work versus 6. So when she said it balances it out, basically you'd have to set close to the same number of days first and second semester. So there's so many things. Testing has been pushed out a little bit further. I mean, the list goes on about the things, issues that come up with the calendar and the dates. So again, it's early, so bear with us. We'll be spending some time, but definitely a community survey is a good suggestion.
Any other questions or discussion on the staff and student empowerment? Ask Mr. Can you please walk us through item number 8, the resource information?
Vernon Florence is a newsletter that I will continue to get as long as that man continues to produce one of those. One of the things that struck me, even as the economy starts to recover, we are still faced with shortages, anywhere from personnel and contractual work shortages to supply chain shortages. An example I can give you, working really hard to get the enrollment center open, and we're waiting an extremely long period of time for HVAC units, which just were placed on the rooftop last week. And get this one, what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? Fire glass, the glass in enrollment center, fire rated glass that just didn't come in. And so we couldn't even start to get approval to move into the building by fire code unless that was installed. So all of those things in terms of supply chain are a real thing. And even with human resources, getting the people to work is a real thing. So it's just a struggle. And then, of course, that lends itself to inflation with all those materials that you're trying to get your hands on. So just making a statement about while our economy seems to be in recovery mode, it still doesn't make it super easy to do business. So just a struggle. The other thing I want to mention is we're still in COVID dust settling, and you all know this. I mean, I think everybody's feeling that as we're starting to kind of hopefully peruse toward the end of pandemic era. In fiscal year 20, so in June of 2020, we were out in March, and at that point, the State Department froze the number of students we had in our district. We were sitting at about 5,065. When COVID happened, we lost over 200 students. Went to Epic, went homeschool, went whatever they were in Sand Springs. This year, we're hanging around 4980, so we've recovered most of them, but we're 70 shy. So I say all that to say there's a reason why you carry a fund balance, to get you through a period of time where there's a little bit of uncertainty in terms of where things settle. And that's where we're at. I'm completely optimistic about getting those kids back. I think the transfer law will help next semester when we start promoting that out. But we're still in that place where we're still in kind of recovery mode. Set to occupy the new enrollment center and child nutrition department in January. Ms. Pearson has asked for a little bit of a delay. She's on in a monitor in January. So I'd rather her focus her time on State Department of Ed, child nutrition department monitoring versus moving files for sure. Again, mentioned the downtrend for the number of students who are qualifying free and reduced. We do know that there's a direct reflection of funding that could be in question. And so we're hitting that hard, you guys. You're going to see a lot of information coming out on social media pages about please get those forms filled out. Item 28 in the action items, letter C, is a new policy we're asking for approval in first read tonight. That's in competitive bidding. It just allows us to meet the requirement of the law, which changed the competitive bidding requirement from 50,000 to 100,000, which is good. That's a good thing. And then item number 29, I'd bring that up as well. That is our capacity report based on the new transfer law. You all saw those numbers last month as a attachment just to know where we were going with that, but we're going to need approval tonight in preparation for January as well. And then hooray, we're getting we have the ability to recommend stipends for our staff again this year. gas leak, it's gonna be tight to get the bid under 50,000. And so what happens is we go into emergency board meeting, competitive bidding, which, takes a lot longer to get those things done. So personally, I think 100,000 is kind of low, honestly, when it comes to some of those items that we know require immediate attention. And we don't have the time to competitively bid those things out. So yes.
You brag on you a little bit because our latest recent.
Yeah.
You're doing a wonderful job. You're doing a wonderful job. Thank you for that.
We had that discussion with our SSEA team today, and it's been difficult. We stay fully staffed. Substitutes have been a real trick for us, honestly. We discussed raising our rate further. We were one of the first districts to bump our certified rate, $10, and of course, other districts have followed suit, with not much success, by the way. It's just, again, we're in this place. I told the teachers this afternoon, we're going to stay strong. Let's hang together because we're going to get through it. It's just this tricky time of getting people that want to come to work, and substitutes have been a real trip. But I'm proud to say, teacher-wise, we're fully staffed, which is great. So far, so good. We've been able to run buses without disruption for the most part. With sometimes every single person with CDL behind a wheel of a bus in the morning. So
You still have one.
you don't want me to have one. I can promise that.
Do you have any questions from Ms. Durkee on resource innovation? If not, we'll move to item number 9, our families and communities.
We, again, did dialogue about a week ago. I think we published it, talking about the new transfer law and then the importance of the free and reduced form. We also talked about the PEBT card, hoping that incentivizes people to get those forms filled out, because the dollars that were loaded on the cards straight from the USDA were, the money would flow through DHS. And so the State Department was just this foundation for drawing information. And they're saying that they're probably going to be issuing PEBT cards again next year. But the caveat is you must have qualified for free and reduced. So that would be another incentive to get those things filled out. So that could be happening next year as well. And then, of course, we're in our enrollment center. We're very excited about that because all of a sudden we've become way more user-friendly in terms of just finding our space, but also the process of enrollment. And then I'm writing down, Mr. Gunn, the survey for calendar. So keeping our folks informed in a way that's beneficial for them is highly important. So trying our best to do that. Lisa's been a godsend, honestly, in helping with our social media strategy. So
You like that to give the information about the PEBT card as well?
yes, but unfortunately, notification about what all that entailed was not super clear or far enough in advance for us to take the calls. And honestly, we had why those were erroneously distributed to a lot of people, but there were a lot of people that got a card that didn't qualify for money. So
Questions or further discussion? Move to item number 10, health and safety related issues.
So alongside other expenditures that we're using the ARP stimulus dollars for, cameras are one of them. Prioritizing Charles Page High School and Five Point Middle School. We have on installation of cameras at the new freshman academy. People were very clearly seeing how dilapidated the cameras were in other areas. So we just need to do some upgrades. I know Tina and her team are working on a plan, and then they have it already ready to bid it out. So that's something that we're going to discuss with Tina soon this week. So we're going to be making it a little bit more user-friendly. Safe Schools Committee met in November. Gosh, Stop It is that anonymous reporting mechanism that students and parents can report if something's awry at the school. I will say this, tomorrow at leadership, we are going to go into great detail about active shooters again, and our protocol and threat assessment and what we do in case of all of those things. We have a very viable plan. We have a threat assessment document that has been part of our repertoire for a long time, but in light of Michigan and the tragedy there, it's always time to revisit it and make sure that we're doing all the processes that work really hard to keep our kids safe, but it's time to review those again. So we'll be doing that at leadership tomorrow and making sure everybody's on the same page with that.
There was another one today.
I hadn't heard that.
Until I'm looking at that, I heard something on video, but I don't.
Second grade.
Oh my goodness.
Second grade, go to school.
There is nothing that makes you more somber. We were headed to Dallas last weekend to go to the OSU game, all excited, and then you're kind of strategizing. Where are we at? Are we doing everything we can? In the case of Michigan, he was a student that was inside the school already. We had the preparation for active shooter a couple of years ago, an opening assembly, and it really was a drag, honestly, at the beginning of the year, just be hyped up and do this. But really important that people understand what is the best way to mitigate that, and had full discussion at the ZA work-off this afternoon with people that kind of are on edge about the possibility of that happening. It was a travesty. So we're very well aware and as on top of it as we can be. And then lastly, just nice report, Child Nutrition does the farm at school day at the FFA barn. So they collaborate with our FFA students, and they get shown all the farm animals and what they do and how they work and all of that. So it's just what's that?
We've got worms.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing ever. So they have a good time. There was a comment, Lisa had done a really great job putting pictures out, and there was a comment on our Facebook page, and the little boy that was effort teachers go to make sure they have the things that our kids need and want. And 24, it's not really a new thing, but it's something that happens every year. It's your approval I'm asking for the one with regional legislative agenda for 2022. Our Tulsa Chamber does a good job, including education as a component of what we would stand together to advocate for in the spring. Of course, school funding is one of the top educational issues, as is tea shortage, which we know is real. So ask for that one. And then 25 is the proposed approval of Infinite Campus for our student information system. This is long overdue. This would be the piece that would replace Engage. Tina could tell you all about it.
Portion, not the business finance.
Correct. One of the things that I'm really excited about is hopefully the simplicity of the system, because Engage was a little tedious. But the other part that has me super excited is the fact that the enrollment portal is part of Infinite Campus. And so no longer will we have registration gateway that we work really hard to get it to communicate with our current SIS system. So we're going to be running two systems simultaneously if you guys approve that one tonight, so that
The goal is to have everything ready to go before we leave for winter break, so that as soon as we come back,
We can start the back-end configuration of the new student information system to spend as much time as possible second semester running both at the same time to make sure our data is as clean as we can possibly make it before we do a full cutover in time for start of school in August, but really for that enrollment portion to start in March. And that also allows for me to start the training process for everybody in the district that's going to touch this starting in January, taking as much time as we need to really get everybody as comfortable as we can, work in some community nights where we can talk to parents, because what they see on the parent portal side is going to be very, very different. So just making sure that we're as transparent as possible and we're disseminating that information so that change is scary no matter what. I'm trying to make it as painless as I can.
This girl went through a tremendous committee process where they met multiple times. I believe the last day was a full day of vetting to.
Started in August, right after school started, and we met about every other week.
I'm seeing Barbie shaking her head because she served on that committee, but truly, it really was about getting folks that are in the system constantly looking at it, playing with it.
And we made sure that, or I made sure that every user type was represented, because yes, the teachers are vitally important, but so are the principals and the attendance secretaries and the nurses. And this really is going to impact all users in the district. So we made sure that all users are represented on that committee. And I'll be honest, because I told them this at the beginning, I didn't vote because I went into the process with the bias. So the committee developed a rubric so that both systems we looked at were evaluated against the same rubric, and it came down to which got the higher score according to the users that were evaluating it.
Questions about any of those?
Engaged for how many years?
I have no idea, long before my time, and thank God it's going away.
I think I can answer that question, actually. So I've been in the district 25 years. We were using a system called Sassy. It took about, I think it was called Sassy. Right? That was really what it was called. Beth's nodding. I'm not crazy. And so we switched to Wingage maybe 3 years after so 20 some odd years. Oh my God, that's really what it was called. So like over 20 years we used Wingage.
There's Kim when you need her.
She would know this. Beth's nodding.
Just need something more robust that can grow with us. One of the issues we've been having with Wingate consistently in the last few years is that their curricular integration ability is minimal. And they don't really have the back-end coders to fix a lot of those issues. We are also currently Wingage's biggest client, which means we're the guinea pig for absolutely everything, which takes down active user time in the middle of the school day because they're trying something new. And that's very, very frustrating for our teachers, as I'm watching the bobbleheads over here. So we need something more robust, a little more modern, and that better meets our needs and allows for us to continue to grow and develop, especially with our versatility of educational options.
Does that come in our other school districts using the Infinite Campus?
Infinite Campus has a really heavy presence in the Oklahoma City metro area. A lot of schools down there use it. Union is a full Infinite Campus user up in our area, as is Pryor, Verticrest. Cleveland is about to move to them. So one of the benefits of choosing Infinite Campus that the committee did is they have a dedicated team that specializes in the conversion of Wingage to Infinite Campus for student information, because they've had so many Oklahoma schools make that transition.
We're not the largest team.
We are not.
That might not be a bad thing. I don't know it's a bad thing.
Somebody else can go be the guinea pig when they try out new things. We can take a break.
Any questions about any of the items on the consent agenda? Seeing that, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Ms. Wagner,
Second.
and a second by, I saw it from Wynn, she was raising her hand, so.
That's the side.
Any other questions or discussion? Call for the vote, please. Yeah.
Ben, Noggle,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner, aye. Paul.
Aye, moving to item number 26, our action items. Any desire for an executive session to discuss the employment of the special education paraprofessional? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 27, entertain a motion to approve the employment of the special education paraprofessional.
I'll make the motion.
Whitney, and second by Jack. He's like to it again. You got you. Any questions? Call for a vote, please.
Jen?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Wagers? Aye. Wagner? Aye. Colin?
Aye. Ms. Director, you lead us through item number 28, please.
So 28 were first read policies last month, with the exception of item C. So that's a competitive bidding policy, CHC, which takes that $50,000 limit by our policy to 100. Of course, that is in compliance with the competitive bidding law in Oklahoma. I would bring to your attention FE, which is student transfer policy. We spent quite a bit of time talking about that last time. That's the new one based on the change in the law from emergency and open transfers to just straight up it's transfers. And then again, item 29 is connected to that in terms of the actual capacity numbers. And so unless you have questions about any of that.
Just talk about item 28 and maybe make a motion to approve the items A through F as policies. This is
Correct.
the first read, this is the second read, except with exception of C.
That's correct.
We're going to go ahead and accept it tonight, just that for someone that's more. Here's a motion to approve the revised policy. Item number 28.
I will move to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Wagers and a second by Mr. Norval. Questions?
I just had one question on the item B for the approved social media accounts. Can you kind of walk me through the process of how they're approved and then how they're monitored and what platform? Is it a different secure platform? Is it just any social media account that exists?
So I'm going to defer to Lisa and let her finish explaining, but really the reason for that is because we have, and you know this, as you onboard new coaches or new leaders of different organizations, then we have a new account. And so we would end up with multiples. There are a couple of accounts that look like they're run by like the official Charles Page type or whatever that is run by a person. So Lisa, I'm going to kind of trend to you to let you kind of explain, but that was one of the first things Ms. Chittister brought to our attention. We really need to streamline it, because if we can have all of the accounts that are a part of a school sponsored email, then it's easier to shift those accounts over. And so we really want to streamline the amount of social media accounts that are out there. I'm saying this poorly, probably, Lisa.
Perfect. Yeah, so the biggest part of the BKBC policy really is sort of shared ownership of any accounts that is representing any facet of the district. So that not only is it easier to transfer those accounts when there's someone who leaves, but it's also improved security, because I'm sure we've all known someone whose Facebook has gotten hacked, and if there's only one person with access to that specific page, it can get kind of hectic trying to get ownership back of that. So that's just sort of securing our presence online.
So the accounts that exist now would simply be shared with the district, not recreated, or would they be?
No one will have to go back, and we're not rewriting history or anything. We're just going to moving forward. This establishes a protocol of who to ask for permission to establish an account and how many people need to have access to it. And
I think that adds a lot with our district Facebook account. If you'll remember, we contracted with Center for Communication Engagement. Kathleen Kennedy had control of it. John and I maintained administrative control as well, but then we shifted to Memora, who did a great job. It's not about that. It's just about the element of making sure it always is a district-owned account. So you keep the history, that we make sure it's linked to an email that's associated with the district that can be passed on once, anybody else is onboarded. That's fair to say.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? There's a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please, to approve the policy on number 28.
Jen?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Wagner? Aye.
Item number 29, discussion of proposed approval of the 2022 capacity report.
So this is the report that will be posted online that will identify what our capacity is by site and grade level. So it's pretty long because we have 5 elementary sites with 6 different grade levels and then ECEC and Charles Page and Boyd. The idea is you all establish the capacity now. We can review it at any time, but it must be done quarterly. And then the idea is once it's posted on the website, as kids transfer in, the number of slots left would change, not the capacity, but we want to make sure we're clean to the public about how many slots do we have in 3rd grade at Angus Valley. So the only part that would change is as we onboard transfer students in the district, that would reduce the number of slots we have left, but the capacity itself would be stable unless we brought to the board a recommendation to alter those.
Will the infinite captors keep track of this for us?
That'd be great. I don't know. That wasn't vetted at the time.
For capacity? No, they wouldn't.
Gotta pull it.
I'd like to pull the information faster. What do you bet?
Yes, and there are certain lifetime trackers that are available at Infinite Campus. So actually, yes, it will, and we can set it up to do that.
You just gave it more work.
Yeah, did we? Oh, yeah, cousin. Any other questions? I'd call for a motion to approve that.
I'll make the motion.
Waitress, have a second? Blanket. Questions or discussion? Call for vote, please.
Ben?
Aye.
No?
Aye.
Wagers?
Aye.
Aye. Mullen?
Hi, item number 30, I see they have what, some of the visitors maybe
Could be
Audience.
why they're here, but this would be the same criteria.
together, but
You're welcome.
we can start off with that.
You're welcome. Well, I'm telling you, we waited till the last minute. What you don't know about Mr. Morris is he has these documents he calls forecasting. And I'm pretty sure no other CFO pulls that together like he does, but he does it monthly, or if the superintendent goes, hey, do you have this early? He might get through payroll and then pull the data early, but it gives you an idea of exactly, to the best of his ability, the revenue that's coming in and then the expenditures going out, and it includes all encumbered money. And so as you saw, we dipped into our fund balance about 600,000. And again, he talked about lingering federal funds. Those lingering federal funds are always out there, by the way. We claim them quarterly, so you always have that every single year. But why that's so important? Because when you're trying really hard to make sure you're fiscally responsible, you need to know that you can have an $800,000 expenditure without worrying about it. And so we had the November data around Thanksgiving, because obviously we'd already paid our people in November before we finally decided, yes, we're going to go for it. So I'm proud that we have the ability to do that. Criteria is the same as last year. We want to really reward people that have stuck around a lot longer than a year and give those folks that joined us this year a little taste of what it is to get a stipend in December so that they want to stick around for another year. So thrilled to do that for our staff.
I make the motion that we approve item number 30.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve item number 30. Any questions or discussion? All the question
How
is,
many years have we been doing that stipend now?
Gosh, I don't know the answer to that question in a long time. We had that 1 year where we took some tremendous budget cuts and we tried to minimize, it looks like $300, but for a long time.
Actually, I remember before we did it, I remember doing it. I just remember it was, we were glad to do it, but we wish we could have compensated better to begin with.
right.
And to see now that we've made some strides, still would love to do more.
Oh, 100%. But, you know, honestly, when the teachers walked out, that would have been 18, I believe. That was a tough 2 weeks or however long we were out of school. But at the same time, what happened was pretty tremendous in that they got a pretty incredible increase. I will say this, and the reason we will continue to advocate for additional funding is because once we did that, our neighbors didn't stop. So OSSBA came out with a regional map of for people expenditures, and I actually almost stuck it in the folder, and I can send it to you if you've got it. It's in OSSBA email, but it's pretty great data about you can't just stop. You can't go one and done and wait 10 years to do that again. So we'll continue to advocate for that. And so again, good strides, but not enough. And we had a conversation with our support staff folks today, or about our support staff folks, and across the board, nobody's in denial that it could be better. It could be better. So we're going to work to achieve that and continue to advocate for the funding that it takes to run a district. So
I think seeing all the numbers in the audit report, we can report the magnitude of this cost.
$800,000.
800.
A pot change for you.
Not quite. It's just under, but right at.
We have a motion in the second to approve item number 30. Any other questions or discussions? Again, Mr. Durkee, Mr. Moses, and team, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. The greatest resource we've got is our people. So appreciate that we can do this. Call the one.
Ken?
Aye.
Hubble?
Aye.
Wagers?
Aye.
Wagner? Mullin?
Aye. Review business for December of 2021, not a 30, the item that could not have been anticipated.
It's not.
Any announcements that need to be made before Mr. Gunn is making.
Not that I can think of.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to second, y'all for the
Ken?
Aye.
Hubble?
Aye.
Wagers?
Aye.
Mullin?